Has something happened in Unga?
Gjálp asks, placing another card onto the floor. You don't really understand the game yet, but you don't mind. At least they're trying to teach you. It's sweet, and the distraction is nice. What do you mean?
The king seemed very odd when he left.
Odd. Yeah, that is one way to describe it. I don't know. I guess he's got a lot on his mind, considering everything that's going on, you know? She nods thoughtfully, and Greip leans over your shoulder, tapping one of the cards in your hand.
This one. It will destroy her lands.
You set it down, and Gjálp sighs in frustration.
I always win at this. You could not find a better teacher.
Greip tells you, smiling as she twines the chain of her necklace around her fingers.
Yes, which is why it is not fair. I thought that I might win a game for once.
You laugh a little, glad that the conversation has been steered away from Loki. He barely even looked at you when he slipped away earlier, and he seemed irritated that you even woke up, like he'd been hoping that he wouldn't get caught. It's because he said you mean something to him, and now he regrets it. Typical. But you tell yourself that it's okay. You were just feeling a little extra vulnerable anyway, and he's just had a near-death experience. Really, the whole thing is probably adrenaline bonding, with maybe a little Stockholm thrown in. Just don't count on him. He's too fickle. You can't afford to count on him. You kind of get it, too. If Loki acting weird and out of character around you in front of the giants is going to cause chaos, then you guess you'd rather just suck it up and deal with it. Hurt feelings are better than being dead, right? Because if anything happens to Loki, if he loses the throne, you know you're as good as dead. Greip and Gjálp couldn't save you. They might want to, but they're basically just kids. If you're caught up in some kind of revolt, if the tide turns against Loki, then all bets are off. No protection, no chance of ever making it back to Earth. So with that in mind, you tell yourself to get a grip and stop letting your feelings affect you so much. But it's a lot easier said than done. The game eventually wraps up, and the three of you decide to find a snack. Aren't you excited to be going home? Back to the forest?
Yes, only it will be difficult, I think, to know how everyone will react. Our father is extremely loyal, but our clan has expected Prince Helblindi to become the king someday, you see. Having a Skogr Jotnar on the throne is very important. With the line of succession disrupted, everyone is waiting to see what Loki Laufeyson will do. Which tribes will he give the most honor? Who will he wed? And the fact that he is a Sederbrandi, and that the storm giants are with him. There is bad blood there in Unga, and it cannot be erased so easily.
But it was Queen Verbauti who called the Velva in the first place. I don't understand. If you guys don't like magic, then why let a magic lady say who gets to be king?
The Volva is different. She is blessed by the Norns. Who are we to question what has been decreed by the Norns?
Greip says patiently, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. That isn't exactly a fantastic explanation, but you decide to let it go for the time being. The one thing that you know they're right about is the bad blood. It seems like everyone has an axe to grind with everyone else, and Loki has landed you smack into the middle of it all. You can't help but worry that the twins are kind of underselling the level of danger involved in this whole expedition. Will Prince Helblindi be at this place?
It is more likely that he will be at Primheimer, the hall of Lady Skadi's father. That is our eventual destination, and it is from there that the king will go forth to slay the wolf Menagermer.
What does that mean? The wolf's name?
Moonhound. It is said that he will devour the moon someday and feast on the dead after the twilight of the gods has come.
That's bleak. Are there not any positive myths around here? Fun fairy tale stories with romance and happily ever afters? It sure doesn't seem like it. It's an interesting reflection of the culture, you think. Maybe they'd be a bit more generally pleasant if they did have more happy stories. Gjalp seems to have noticed that you're brooding, and she smiles at you, patting your knee.
Father will likely hold a feast. Would you like for us to dress you up in Anga?
Dress me up?
Yes, as we did before. I am certain that we have some clothes that will fit you from when we were children.
With the makeup and everything?
Yes.
She looks excited, and considering the terrible few days that she's had, you can't really bring yourself to refuse her. It's harmless, and it'll give you something to do. Maybe it'll help Greip relax too, since you're suspicious that she's super fixated on the whole parents finding out a storm giant with a crush tried to save her thing. Okay, sure. Just, maybe only the lines this time. You can make them match the pattern on Loki's face, right?
Of course.
If you're going to let them play dress up, you might as well make a statement. Hey, do you guys have, like, razors or anything like that? You ask on impulse, and they both stare at you, so you add, a straight razor, even? For shaving?
Shaving? Well, we use a blade or scissors to trim our hair. Is that what you mean?
I mean, shaving body hair? They both continue to stare at you. Legs? Armpits? No? You try, feeling increasingly awkward. They shake their heads, and you decide to give up. You're not about to try to shave your legs with a freaking dagger, so bring on the fuzz. It doesn't really matter that much anyway. Perks of being bundled up on an ice planet. How long before we get there?
It should not be long, I think. Rest in Anga, and try not to worry. Everything will be fine.
It turns out that Gjalp and Greip's father lords over a massive wooden fortress, surrounded by a palisade that seems to be built around actual living trees. The trees themselves are massive, but they seem a little thin relative to their height, and the few branches that they do have are laden with snow. Seeing trees at all seems odd now, after so many days of nothing but rock and ice. Oh, a big grassy field would be amazing. One filled with wildflowers. You're guessing it'll probably be a long time before you see anything like that again. Gjalp keeps you close as she helps her sister to the gate. Most of the convoy hadn't emerged from their sleighs, but you can't really blame her for being eager to get inside. If there's one thing you understand completely, it's homesickness. The gate opens, and giants spill out, all lithe, all pointy-eared, and most scantily clad. It's a tiny bit warmer here, maybe, but you still think the whole lack of coats thing is kind of ridiculous, even for ice planet aliens. Maybe they're just showing off because they have visitors. As the sisters start giving people directions, from what you can gather, they must be servants, you hang back and try to study the crowd. There's an actual child among them, one of the first kids you've seen this entire time, and he's probably a few inches shorter than you, which you find terribly disappointing. "What is that?" he blurts out, pointing directly at you.
This is Loki Lawfacen's mortal pet, in Anga. She is not to be touched without the king's permission.
Gjalp replies, putting her hand on your shoulder. The kid just gawks at you, and you pull on your hood, trying to hide as much as possible.
Go start a fire in the king's chamber, Bjarki, and make sure that there are plenty of furs. Mortals have thin skin.
He scampers off, watching you over his shoulder as he goes. You fight the urge to stick out your tongue at him, but then you remember that he's probably at least a few centuries old, and the whole thing weirds you out.
We will take you to our rooms, for now.
Greip whispers in your ear. She's leaning on you a bit heavily, you notice, but you don't want to say anything. You doubt that it's intentional. She really shouldn't be trying to stand on her own at all, considering everything that she's been through. The rest of the members of your party begin to trickle into the courtyard. Heidor and Hrossþjófr join you soon, arm in arm, and Greip stiffens. You're pretty sure that she wants to escape, but since her sister is busy chatting, she's stuck leaning on you. Hrossþjófr's smile is faint, and so is his voice.
You look well, Evidia. Are you going to string me up by my ears as you promised?
She stares at the snow for a few moments, and when she replies, her voice is equally soft.
You lied to me. You sought to make sport of me.
Greip, you must know that I—
Stop. You should not speak so freely with me. I do not wish to hear it.
Come, brother. We should attend to the Valfa and to the king.
He looks like he wants to argue, but since Greip won't meet his eyes, he gives up.
Very well. I understand.
They then turn to leave. Greip's hand is clutching at her tunic, probably where the pendant is hidden, you imagine. It is a lot easier to get yourself caught up in someone else's drama than it is to worry about your own, so once you're fairly certain that there's no one within earshot, you ask,
Do you really not want to know what he was going to say?
There is no point to it.
Her shoulders sag, and as you glance around the courtyard, you realize that Heidor and Hrossþjófr, along with all the other storm giants, are being given extremely wide berths, along with some pretty open glares. It isn't going to be a fun night, you can already tell. Loki's standing with Skadi again. You're basically in her domain now, so it makes sense. But you still feel kind of petty.
Hey, remember last night? You remember that?
You want to say. Yeah, like that would go over well. Greip and Gjálp eventually take you inside the wooden fortress and guide you to their room. There's a large fireplace, which is a massive relief, because your hands and feet are starting to feel numb from standing out in the cold for so long. Their beds are simple wooden platforms, covered by a thin mattress and more heaps of blankets, and the decorations are sparse. You had expected something a little more homey.
We must go greet our father and mother, mortal. You had best stay here for now. We will lock the door. You will be perfectly safe.
It really feels like you can't catch a break. You've been starting to feel really comfortable with the twins, and Loki said that he kind of cared, but somehow you're still being left alone in yet another unfamiliar giant abode. They leave, and you take the liberty of curling up on one of the beds, your muscles tense and knotted from the stress. Loki. He isn't going to make you sleep here, is he? You mentally slap yourself. You should be worried about the opposite. If you had any sense at all, you'd be glad that you get to hang out with the girls instead of being Loki's blanket, pillow, pet, or whatever you are to him. Something. At least you're something to him. This might be the worst giant feast you've been to so far, and that is saying something. It's just so freaking tense. Greip and Gjálp's dad, Heidor, is an imposing sort of man, even though he definitely isn't the tallest giant you've come across so far. He's loud and opinionated, and one of those options is apparently all storm giants suck. Most of the house seems to be pretty disapproving of humans too, which is really disappointing, but not at all that surprising. You've already overheard people asking the twins how fast you can run, and what color you bleed, and a dozen other questions that scream red alert. The nice thing, if you can really call it nice, is that Loki magnanimously decided to keep you in his lap. Of course, Loki being Loki, he's also basically managed to ignore you the entire time you've been here, despite the fact that you're literally on top of him. Why does he even do these things? But at least you aren't off in a corner somewhere, or sitting on the hard-packed dirt floor. At least none of the other giants are going to try to touch you, considering the king doesn't seem very keen on sharing his toys. You curl around his chest, feeling embarrassingly clingy. But then, what's wrong with being clingy? The last time you were very far from him in a strange place, You got your face pinched by some 8-foot-tall oaf. Said cheek is currently pressed against Loki's shoulder.
How do our daughters fare in the court of Utgard, Lady Skadi?
Heidor asks.
They do you proud, Geror. The queen regards them highly, as does our new king. Is that not so, sire?
Very loyal girls. They've proven invaluable to me.
Loki says, resting his hand on the top of your head, his fingers drumming against your hair.
Have they? Yet they've been set to work with witches and that mortal.
Heidor's wife smiles thinly over her mug.
We all journey together, my lady. In these times, it is important to keep our friends close, you know.
Yeah, right. All the storm giants have basically been shoved into a corner of their own table, including the supposedly revered Velva.
You do not approve of Sadie?
Loki tucks a strand of your hair behind your ear. His voice is smooth, charming, but the fact that he's fidgeting with your hair kind of betrays the fact that he's feeling tense, too.
Sador makes men mad. Kings, too. But everyone already knows that you are mad, Loki in Illy.
He declares, apparently not worried at all that he's just insulted the new king. You expect Loki to freak out at that, but he doesn't even flinch.
A man is a fool who does not make use of his gifts, Giro, dear.
He leans back slightly in his seat, a slight shift in posture that you doubt the others will even consciously notice. He's sprawling, trying to look carefree and confident. It's hard to block out the memory of him telling you that he's basically running on empty as far as power goes. The show is all that he has.
Perhaps, if Loki had been a bit more appreciative of spell work, he'd still be alive today, sitting here to chat with you about the glorious past.
Perhaps he should have known more caution when mingling with Stormer Jotnar. And you would not be sitting here chatting with me about your glorious present.
It's a clear taunt, but apparently baiting each other with insults is just a common Jotunheim pastime, because Loki just laughs instead of punching the guy in the face, which is what you halfway expected him to do. Heck, you'd want to punch someone in the face after making snarky comments about your long-lost mother like that, and you only have a tiny fraction of Loki's pent-up rage. The rest of the dinner goes by pretty quickly. For the most part, Loki sits back and lets the forest giants do all the talking, though you notice how easily he seems to slide into any train of conversation when he wants. It's mostly names and places you've never heard before, and you mostly tune it out, only to snap to attention when Greip and Gjálp become the center of attention.
They should have their teeth sharpened when they return to Utgard. They've been old enough for it for several years, and it's time to look for matches for both of them,
their mother says. Neither of the girls say anything. In fact, while Gjálp has a pleasant, agreeable smile fixed on her face, Greip doesn't even look up from her plate.
You will oversee it, Lady Skadi, will you not? Or Queen Vabauti?
I would be honored, and I am certain that the Queen Mother would be pleased to assist as well.
I do not suppose that you'd have a place for them at your table, would you, sire? As you have found them so invaluable.
Heidor asks, red eyes glinting. You're confused, but you feel Loki stiffen slightly.
We shall see,
he says, and Greip seems to sink even lower into her chair. The conversation moves on to something about crops. You tried to pay attention, but you're really tired, and by the time the dinner has ended, you're practically passed out in his arms. That seems to be a trend, and you should probably be a lot more concerned about it than you are. He doesn't carry you to bed, which is a disappointment, but an expected one. Instead, you trail behind him as a servant leads you to the bath, because apparently, no giant worth their salt builds houses without indoor bath pools. To be fair, these are smaller, and from the raised flooring, you get the impression that they're probably heated with pipes or something similar, but it does still seem a little over the top for a fortress in the woods. Loki follows you inside the steamy bathroom, and the two of you undress back to back. He still hasn't really said anything at all since he told you that you're someone, and you're getting the impression that he'd probably take it back if he could.
Great. I'm so astonishingly awkward that I broke old Silvertongue himself.
You race to hop into the water before he decides to be his usual, inappropriately teasing self, but the water isn't nearly as hot as you expected, so you yelp in surprise. Loki spins around, and you screw your eyes away from his gloriously naked form.
You definitely didn't see anything inappropriate. Nope, no way.
Ooh, the water's kinda cold. You hurry to tell him. What does he think? That assassins are in the bath or something? Though the instant turn to rush to your aid, because that's what you're letting yourself believe he was about to do, is pretty nice for your ego. Loki lets out a long, suffering sigh, then joins you, the blue receding from his skin. He looks like a marble statue, you decide. A bruised, battered marble statue.
Ugh, get it together, girl.
So, what did you think of my look? You say, wrapping your arms around yourself under the water. He just rolls his eyes.
It did not differ too greatly from your previous look, did it? I imagine that poor Gjálp constantly laments the fact they cannot bear your skin enough to make you truly fashionable. At least you do not look like a corpse this time around.
Oh, yeah, I told them to go easy on the makeup this time. It's a little hard to concentrate on the carefree attitude you're trying to project, because Loki's decided that now is a good time to crowd into your space. Tilting up your chin, his thumb swipes across your skin.
Good.
Don't you dare think about it.
You tell yourself as he rubs his fingers on your cheek, smearing the lines away.
Don't think about him touching you, and definitely don't think about how gently he's touching you.
Is something the matter with you, mortal?
No. I mean, there's a lot going on. Loki pauses for a moment to rinse his fingers in the water, and then starts working on your forehead. You're frozen. It feels nice, but if you move, you're afraid that you might ruin the moment.
I want you to stay close to me while we're here. Close and silent.
Close? You left me alone all day. You probably shouldn't have said that, but Loki doesn't look angry like you'd expect. He just looks tired. Somehow that makes you feel worse.
There was business to discuss.
Business? Loki sighs, sinking into the water up to his neck.
Wash my hair.
As you run your fingers through his hair, you feel a weird urge to just wrap your arms around him, to press yourself against his back. That is crazy, right? But you do it anyway. He stiffens as soon as your arms are around him, which is honestly a little discouraging.
Oh no, I'm such an idiot.
What is this?
His voice is slightly strained, but he doesn't pull away, so that's something. A hug?
I see.
When he doesn't say anything else, you give up and go back to washing his hair, horrifically embarrassed. Loki dunks himself under the water, and when he emerges, he turns to face you, straightening to his full height. His wet hair clings to his forehead and cheeks, and you're horrified to realize how badly you want to touch his face, to brush it away.
Skadi expects that I will make my intentions towards her clear, once I've defeated Managam and solidified my position.
He's watching you carefully, like he isn't quite sure what to expect, and your heart begins to quicken. Your intentions?
Yes. The choice of a first wife is a very tricky thing, it seems. The Skogi Jotnar feel like it is only right that Skadi receives the honor, as she was promised to Hedblindi when he was to be king. With Skadi following Farboti as queen, they'll have established something of a Frost giant dynasty, and I'd risk losing their support if I threatened to disrupt it.
You cross your arms across your chest, feeling exposed, despite the fact that you're just as hidden by the water now as you were 2 minutes ago. It kind of feels like you've been punched in the gut, which is stupid, because you already knew that this was a thing that was happening. None of this is new information.
You seem to disapprove.
Are you just going to go along with that? Skadi?
Well, what about Skadi, mortal?
Loki prompts, and his own arms are crossed now too. I just don't like her. You probably shouldn't have said that either, but it is true.
Would you prefer that I consider the alternatives then? There is always the lovely Angerboda. I'm certain that she would be a delight. Inagri was quick to recommend his sister as a prospect. Or, if I truly wanted to cause chaos, I suppose I could choose Girodia's daughters and let the Skadi Jotnar tear themselves apart within fighting. Which of those would you like?
What? The twins?
How in the nine did you miss that? Their father has all the subtlety of a sledgehammer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't raised in a place where people try to sell off their twin daughters to a king. Loki then clamps a hand over your mouth.
Quiet. Don't you dare raise your voice to me. Not here. Remember that you are a pet, and I am a king.
Message received. Ass. You think, glaring at him.
Believe it or not, I cannot simply alter the customs or the political structure of an entire realm. You have no right to judge.
He continues in a hushed tone. You tug his hand away from your mouth, but he's probably right about the dangers of being overheard by sharp-eared, gossipy giants, so you keep yours down too. You brought it up. He frowns and then pulls his arm from your grasp.
You must be informed. As my accomplice and my thrall, I must keep you abreast of my plans.
It's hard to hold everything back. Liar, you want to call him. You want to tell him that you aren't quite as oblivious as he seems to think, and that he clearly has a hell of a lot more issues with emotional attachment. You want to tell him that he clearly doesn't care much for the rules, or he probably wouldn't be taking over a planet in the first place. But you don't say anything. Loki almost seems displeased. Maybe he was hoping for a bigger response.
Your cheek. There is a bruise forming.
He reaches out to touch it, briefly. Oh, so we're just dropping the subject? Perfect.
Say something.
You said to be quiet.
I meant that you should not raise your voice to me, or challenge my decisions as king. When we are alone, you may speak. Within reason.
Okay, yes, there is a bruise forming. Closing his eyes, Loki takes a deep breath, and then moves towards the edge of the bath.
We should go to my chamber. You need sleep, and I have reading to do.
He dresses quickly, and you don't even have to ask him to avert his eyes. He stands by the door, drumming his fingers on the frame, oozing impatience. The evening has not been going very well. On your silent march to his room, you decide that there's no point in pouting. You do want him to talk to you, even if some of the topics of conversation are infuriating. Besides, the more he talks to you, the more he'll maybe start to realize... Realize what, exactly? What are you hoping for? That he's going to suddenly decide that he likes you? That's crazy. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Even if you mean something to him, you don't belong here. This isn't your world. It's stupid to get too attached. The bed in his room is pretty nice, and you clamber in as soon as the servants escorting you around leave the two of you alone. You're a little surprised when Loki settles down beside you, a book in his hand. You figured that he'd choose to brood in one of the chairs by the fire, given the current mood. He tucks a strand of his hair behind one ear as he reads, and you're immediately reminded of the way he'd been fidgeting with your hair at dinner, the tension you had felt in his frame. It softens you just a little. Sure, your life sucks, but his does too. Hey, your hair's still kinda wet. What about your magical blow-dry? Loki doesn't look up from his book.
I do not have the power for it.
Damn, you didn't realize he was still that low. But aren't you uncomfortable? It is pretty cold. Shrugging, he licks his finger and flips to the next page.
Are you trying to convince me to go sit by the fire?
What? No,
Because you can have the bed, if you like.
He thinks you're mad and trying to get him to go away, and he's willing to actually do it? I don't want the bed. I mean, I want to sleep in the bed, but I want you to sleep in the bed too, with... You hesitate for a second, because saying with me sounds a little needy. Together. Loki finally looks up at you, his eyes slightly narrowed.
You are very odd.
Yeah, me and you both, buddy. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get rescued before he actually has to get married to anyone. But even the thought of that makes your chest clench. You would still know. You can't let this become some kind of thing. You just can't. There's no happy ending here.
I cannot renew your charm, but with any luck, I'll be able to restore it before we resume our journey. In the meantime, you must tell me if you feel that you're growing too cold.
Okay. Actually, I'm pretty cold right now. Silently, Loki raises an arm, and you tuck in snugly against his side, your heart fluttering. He keeps reading, and with nothing to listen to but the crackling of the fire and his steady breathing, you're soon dozing off. You wonder if he realizes that you're still awake when he shifts slightly and presses a feather-light kiss against your hair. For both of your sakes, you pretend that you're already asleep.